so sad to tell you that I'm like not really loving this book so far. Hey, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be starting on a reading vlog where I'm going to be reading some highly anticipated, mostly new release books. In this reading vlog, I'm going to be reading 5 different books across so many different genres that I've just been really interested in reading recently. First book that I'll be reading for this vlog is going to be Watermoon, which this is a book that I am highly anticipating, not only because this cover is one of the most beautiful covers that I've ever seen in my entire life, and it literally gets better. Like when you take off the dust jacket, like can you believe how beautiful this book is? I mean, not only is this book very aesthetically pleasing and beautiful to look at, the premise for this one also sounds really interesting. It takes place in the back streets of Tokyo, and you're following this woman who inherits a pawn shop where you can sell your regrets. I think this one is kind of like a fantasy magical realism, so I think this one could be like a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I'm really excited to check it out. I've been hearing great things about this. One thriller that I'm going to be reading for today's video is this one called You Are Fatally Invited. This one is an ARC copy that I have, but this book actually just went on sale in February, and this is a thriller that I've been so excited and so curious to read. It's actually a debut from this author. The premise for this one really intrigues me because it says that it's an exclusive thriller writers retreat hosted on a private island that turns lethal when one of the authors is found murdered in this twisty locked room mystery. That sounds exactly like the kind of thriller that I would really be into. Like, I love thrillers that follow writers, and I also love thrillers that have some kind of like writers retreat. I think that that's very fun, and the island vibes, that just sounds right up my alley with what I typically like in thrillers, so I'm very excited to read this one. I'm also going to be reading We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen. It's feeling like a 5-star prediction for me because I have read Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austen, and I really love that one, and I really connected with her writing. And this one, I don't know too much about it other than that it's a story about 2 sisters and that it's supposed to be pretty hard-hitting and like heavy subject matter, but it sounds like the kind of book that was written just for me, so I'm very excited to read this one. I also recently just got checked out from my library this book called Open Throat, and this one is a novella that I've just been so curious about, so I decided to throw it into this vlog as well, because this one is a kind of like literary fiction book, but we're following from the perspective of this queer mountain lion who is living under the Hollywood sign. And I've just heard really great things about this book from so many friends, so I just decided to include it in this vlog because it's short and I've been so excited to read this. And then also the 5th and final book that I'll be reading for this reading vlog is going to be Murder by Memory. And this one, from what I understand, it is a novella. It's only about 100 pages long, and it's kind of a mix of like sci-fi mixed with cozy mystery. You know, cozy mystery is not always a genre that I tend to enjoy, but I was like, you know, maybe if there's a sci-fi spin on it, then maybe I could be more into it, because all I know about this is that you're following a character who like wakes up in a body that's not her body, and I think that it takes place in space, and like they're on a spaceship or something. I don't know, but it's a novella. It's only 100 pages. It's the first in a series, I think. So I think this could be a fun one to try. You know, like I'm trying to get more outside of my comfort zone this year, and I think this could push me to do that. So yeah, those are the 5 different books that we're going to be reading in this reading vlog. So let me send you back about a week ago when I kicked off this reading vlog.
I write to you in poetry with words left on the shelf, full of dust, you know.
Hello, I wanted to check in for the first update of this vlog because I have started reading Watermoon. This afternoon was really lovely because I got the chance to start listening to this while I was on a walk to my library, because you know, now that I'm living back at my parents' house, one of the things that I loved about living here is walking to the library. I wanted to update you because I'm now 156 pages in. I've been really excited to read this book, not only because the premise sounds so freaking cool and so unique. I mean, this is definitely something that's like a little bit outside of my comfort zone because it's like a little bit fantasy, like magical realism kind of vibe, but like, god dude, this cover, okay, I'm so shallow, but this is like one of my favorite book covers of all time. In this story, there's this pawn shop that exists on like the back streets in Tokyo, and it's really cool because most people can't see it from the outside. Like most people just think it's like a little ramen restaurant. Then only those who need to find this pawn shop are the ones who stumble upon it. It says they can pawn their life choices and their deepest regrets, which like, what? And like, that is so cool, and that's the main reason why I was really excited to read this one, because I was like, that premise is so unique. And so in this story, we're following the woman who's like the daughter of the owner of the shop, and she is like inheriting the shop and taking it over, but then she finds out that her dad is missing, and then this guy like stumbles into the shop on the day that her father went missing. And so the story is about how both of these characters are going to be going on this journey together to try and find her father. And that's where like the fantasy elements of this book like really come into play, because it says they must journey through a mystical mystical world to find Hana's father and the stolen choice by way of rain puddles, rides on paper cranes, the bridge between midnight and morning, and a night market in the clouds. And it says, as they get closer to the truth, she must reveal a secret of her own and risk making a choice that she will never be able to take back. I think so far this book has been okay. I was really invested in like the first like 50 pages or so because I feel like you're learning a lot about like this pawn shop and like how it works, and I thought the setup of it was like really, really cool. But then almost right away, like after her dad goes missing and then this guy gets introduced into the story, it really quickly becomes like a romance between her and this guy while they're on this journey together. And I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not the biggest fan of the romance in this book. Like it's not really doing much for me. And I think it's also because both of their characters, they just feel so one-dimensional to me. Like I really don't feel like she has a very clear personality, and then like the same with this guy. I don't even know, like I'm not connecting with either of their characters. I've actually been like debating all afternoon if I wanted to like DNF this because I'm just not really connecting with it in the way that I thought I would. But I'm not gonna lie to you, it's mostly because of this cover being the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, no, I need to push through and I need to at least finish this book because you never know, like maybe the second half is gonna be even better and like really surprise me. Don't get me wrong, some of the writing in this book is absolutely stunning. Like sometimes I had to pause the audiobook and go like running in here to make a tab because I was like, whoa, I need to come back to that. There's this one quote that was on page 142 when she's talking about autumn, when she said, there is something about autumn that makes things more beautiful. Out of all the seasons, it is the most honest about time. Summer and spring blind you to its passing with their colorful displays. Winter paints over everything in white, but autumn is not shy about things coming to an end. It welcomes it, waving leafy flags of red, yellow, and gold. It celebrates its sadness. What the fuck? That is like one of the most beautiful quotes about autumn that I've ever read in my life. Like, I love that. I loved it so much. And there's like a few different quotes like that like really surprised me and like stopped me in my tracks, and I'm like, wait, I need to like make a note of that because that was very thought-provoking. So I do love the little moments like that. I just wish that I was like connecting more to the characters in this. I also think that like some of the fantasy elements are really freaking cool, and then some of them I just don't care about as much, or some of them I feel like they're going over my head a little bit. Yeah, that is my reading update. This book is about like 370 pages, so I still have like over 200 pages to go, but I will check in once I finish this book. I think for the rest of the afternoon, like today is actually still the first day that I'm like fully living in this house, so like there's still a lot to do in terms of like finishing up the moving process. I mean, for one, like my books are just like a hot mess right now. Like look at this behind you, like all of my books are just like scattered everywhere, and like this bookshelf is very empty because all of the books are still in the other room, and I just have not made any progress at all when it comes to like putting away the books because I'm trying to like reorganize my books this time. So I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna continue listening to this one on audio, and I'll update you when I'm done with it.
You're telling me you know what you need, but when I turn the lights off, it's all so clear. I can't get away, can't run away, I can't get away. You're bringing on the heartache, you're bringing on the heartache.
Last night, I ended up having a really great night because I picked up some Asian food from one of my favorite spots in town, and it was so good. It's the ribayaki that I'm like really obsessed with. I also, oh my god, last night was so much fun because I started my rewatch of The Vampire Diaries with my mom because, my mom has never seen the show. And so like after moving in, I was like, if you want to get into it, I don't mind like rewatching the entire show with you because like that's like my whole obsession and personality right now. And so we watched 6 episodes of the first season last night, and my mom's already pretty into it. My mom really likes Stefan right now. I mean, everybody likes Stefan at the beginning, but it's been so much fun to get to rewatch The Vampire Diaries with my mom. Like that is like my ultimate comfort show right now. I just love those characters so much, so that's been great. But this morning, I kind of had a slow start to my morning. I've just been sitting here on my laptop like scheduling a bunch of stuff for my Patreon, so I finished listening to the audiobook of Watermoon while I was sitting here, and gosh, you have no idea how badly I wanted to love this, because as I mentioned, I want to keep this book on my bookshelves forever because of how stunning it is. I don't care if it's shallow to say, like this is one of my favorite book covers that I've ever seen in my whole life. I didn't love this. I feel like I'm torn between giving this like 2 to 2.5 stars. I do see a lot of other book reviewers saying that this book could be compared to like Studio Ghibli and like that universe. And like I definitely see that comparison, even though I don't think I've seen nearly enough of those movies to like accurately say that. All of the potential in this book was there. It was just so boring and like not interesting to me. It really sucks because I think some of the magical elements or some of the fantasy elements in this this book are actually so cool, so creative, so thought-provoking, and I was like, wow, like this is a setup for a really cool story, but like I just did not connect with these characters at all. Like these characters felt so one-dimensional. I just couldn't get on board with like their story, and I couldn't find myself caring about their relationship at all, like the romance. I didn't really feel any chemistry between these two, and I didn't really like them as characters because I didn't feel like I knew them. It just sucks because I think the concept for this book is really cool, and the magical elements, I mean, some of them kind of went over my head and I didn't really care for as much, but some of the magical bits, especially towards the end of this book, so cool, so creative. Like I don't think I've ever read anything quite like this, but the execution of this book was just not very well done in my opinion, and that's a huge bummer. I saw somebody review this on Goodreads and they said, imagine if someone tried to turn a dream into a story but forgot to add the substance. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I feel like I'm trying to say, because it had all of those amazing qualities and it did feel like a bit like a dream, but it was just lacking the substance, like to make me really care about this story. It's almost more disappointing to me to read books like this where like I can see the potential of this story, but the execution is just not good, and like you know what this book could be. I also just kept going back and forth between like really loving the writing at times and then feeling like the writing felt so simplistic, and like the characters, like some of their dialogue felt really awkward with each other, like in a way that's like, I don't think people talk like this to each other. And I don't know if that was just like an issue with the translation itself, you know, because this is a translated book, so like that could have something to do with it. I can definitely see though that this book does have an audience, you know, like there's a lot of people rating this really high, like 4 or 5 stars, and I'm so jealous of all the people who are rating this so high because I really wanted to be on that hype train as well. Anyways, I think I am going to start listening to the audiobook for the next book that I'm gonna read. I don't know exactly which one I want to do next, but I'll let you know once I know. And then tonight I am really excited because I'm gonna be going over to the apartment to have dinner with my sister. I haven't actually seen her since I moved. I mean, it's only been 2 days. Okay, it's only been 2 days, but like I haven't seen her since I've moved, so like that's crazy. So we're gonna have dinner tonight and then watch TV at the apartment. We actually started watching Legacies because, you know, Legacies is the spin-off of the Vampire Diaries. The order that you're supposed to watch them is the Vampire Diaries and then the originals and then Legacies, because, you know, that's like the order that you're supposed to watch them in. And so we started watching Legacies, and like, okay, at first I could not stand Legacies. Like in the first 4 episodes, I was like, oh my god, it's giving like major Gen Z. The vibes are like completely different. Like the coloring is just so bright. There's a lot of like slow motion during some of the action scenes, and then like the fantasy in the show feels way stronger. Like the Vampire Diaries and the originals, it doesn't feel that fantasy. Like it feels like it's taking place in our world, but then in Legacies for some reason, like it feels like a fantasy show. It feels like they're trying to do something like Harry Potter. I don't know. So like we really didn't like the first like 4 episodes of Legacies, but then finally once you start getting a little bit more into season 1, we got up to episode 9, and now they're finally like, it's feeling a little bit less, you know, ridiculous and like over the top. So we're definitely liking it a little bit more now after being 9 episodes in. But like Legacies is still, like, in my opinion, it's not nearly as good or like on the same level as the Vampire Diaries and the originals. Like those 2 shows are like way above Legacies for me right now. I mean, I know that might change because I think there's like 4 seasons of Legacies, and I do want to watch the whole show. I do. Even if it's kind of bad, I still want to get through it because I really like the characters in this universe. So yeah, anyways, that's the update, that's the plans, and I will update you with my thoughts once I've started the next thing. Hi, I wanted to update you before I leave for my sister's apartment, but I just got up to chapter 18. I'm 108 pages in, and according to the audiobook, which I'm also listening to, I'm about 31% of the way in. And so far, I'm really liking the setup of this thriller so far. It's very fun because the basic premise of the story is that we're following 6 different thriller writers, and they're all going to be going to this island for this thriller writers retreat. There's this very rich and famous but also anonymous author named J.R. Allister, and he hires this woman named Mila to host this writing retreat. And so it's really interesting because right off the bat, we get the perspectives of this guy, Rodrigo, who is one of the writers that's going to be going to the retreat, but then we also do get Mila's perspective, and she's the one hosting it. And Mila's perspective is especially interesting because a lot of her perspective is like written in second person, where she's like, I'm gonna finally get revenge for what you did. And just right off the bat, you're kind of like, oh, like who is she talking about, and like who is she trying to get revenge against? Also funny because the guy, Rodrigo that you're following at the start, he is a writer, but he used to be a lawyer, so he has some history with some people, and right off the bat, he like recognizes somebody that's a guest there that he's like, oh my gosh, like I used to know them. And I don't know if it's like supposed to be a nod or something to Olivia Rodrigo. I don't think it is, but the guy's name is Rodrigo and then his wife's name is Olivia. Is that so funny? I thought that was like a weird coincidence. I'm sure it has nothing to do with Olivia Rodrigo, but I just thought that was funny. So far, I'm really liking the story. I'm liking the pacing of this and the setup. I like that we're following a few different characters. Like we are bouncing around between a few of the different characters. And the audiobook is so good, by the way, because there will be moments in between the book where you get these like excerpts from like another book, but it's kind of cool because it'll have parts of it like scratched out. And it's so cool because the sound on the audiobook, like after they'll read the sentence, there'll be like little scribbling sounds, like they're scratching it out, which I just love that. So the audiobook is definitely a cool experience, and it's a full cast audiobook, which is also very fun. I'm also liking the pacing of this a lot because so far it's been divided into like each day that they're on this like writer's retreat. And I only have one more chapter before I get to the point where we're gonna be on day 3. And I'm liking the mystery of like trying to figure out like who is this J.R. Alistair man, and like what is his motive, and like what is he trying to do here, because they did say that this thriller writers retreat is going to be themed, and so they kind of all just think that like something's gonna happen, and right away one of the guests goes missing and then they find him dead. And this is all mentioned in the premise of the book. It says Alistair and Mila have masterminded a week of games, trope-filled riddles, and maybe a jump scare or two, the perfect cover for Mila to plot a murder of her own. But when a guest turns up dead and it's not the murder that she planned, Mila finds herself trapped in a different narrative altogether. And so there's a storm that's cutting off the island. Mila doesn't know like what exactly is going on here, because I guess she's been planning a murder for one of the other guests, and now she doesn't know if she can even trust Alistair, like this guy that hired her, because she doesn't know what his plans are. It's just very interesting so far. I'm very impressed that this is a debut novel, because I feel like there's a lot of layers to this already, and I'm really invested in like the mystery and trying to figure out what's going on. It kind of does remind me of like some of my, you know, favorite thrillers like Daisy Darker. It's got the like stormy island vibes. It's got the like people getting picked off one by one going for it. It's very like feeling like Agatha Christie, you know, but like I really like the setup. I'm having fun with it. And so far it's going well. And I'm so glad to say that, because it's been a while since I've like really had fun with a thriller. I've actually been telling myself that I want to read a little bit like less thrillers this year, just because lately I've been finding them to be so disappointing. But you know, it's books like this that remind me why I still like to read thrillers. I'm loving the atmosphere. And so that's a great update. I'm really glad about it. Thank you so much. Thanks, you too. Hello, it's been about like 48 hours since the last time that I updated this vlog. Yesterday, my sister came over and we ended up watching the Oscars last night, and the Oscars were like so crazy. I thought for sure that Demi Moore was like a locked in winner for Best Actress, so like Mikey Madison winning was like so unexpected. I was shocked, but like good for her, you know, because like Mikey Madison was really great in Anora. But I also thought, like, I don't know if it's like an unpopular opinion, but like I thought Anora was like, it was a good movie, but it was like just okay. I don't really think that that movie was like worthy of sweeping the way that it just did at the Oscars. I don't know, is it Best Picture worthy? Like really? So I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, at the Oscars last night. Just got out of the gym, and it feels so good to go to the gym first thing in the morning. But I did want to let you know that I am still currently reading You Are Fatally Invited. I'm now just about over 200 pages in. I'm like 209 pages in, and I'm still having a lot of fun with this book. And at this point, you know, like they are trying to figure out among the few of them that are still left on the island, they're trying to figure out like who they can trust. And so I have a few different theories going. We'll see if I'm right about any of them. I don't know. I am going to go ahead and pick up some breakfast, and then I think I'm going to try to finish this one up today. I have had a very productive day because I started the day by going to the gym. I was able to film my TBR video that I needed to get done for this month. And then I also, like, after I finished editing that on my laptop, I was doing some laptop work and I was able to finish listening to this one on audio. And I kind of have mixed feelings about this book. I mean, I think for the most part, I really did enjoy this and I had a lot of fun reading this book, which is not always the case with thrillers these days. I feel like with thrillers, I'm developing such a love-hate, you know, because I feel like sometimes it can really work for me and then sometimes I feel so disappointed or like plot twists are so obvious. I think I'm probably gonna settle on giving this like 3.5 stars. And with this thriller, I really did love the setup of this, and I loved all of the characters in this book. I feel like the characters are all very strong, and I like that this mystery feels very intricate and there's like a lot of layers. You know, like this is a very well fleshed out, well thought out kind of mystery in this book. But I feel like I saw my friend Justin, he reviewed this book recently, and he was kind of saying that like towards the end it just starts to feel like a convoluted mess, and like there's just so much going on to the point where it starts to feel a little bit confusing. And I would definitely agree, especially just trying to follow along on audiobook with this one. I feel like especially in the second half I was getting a little bit lost at times with like what was happening, so I kept having to go and flip back to the chapter I was on to make sure I knew whose perspective I was reading from. But I did like in this book that it feels like one of those stories where like every single character has something more going on with them, you know, like everybody's lying about something, and I thought that that was really fun and really interesting to like get some different reveals. There was a few times where I thought that I was reading the last chapter, and then it would be like the next chapter, and then it would be like the next chapter, and then it would be like a year later, and then it would be like an epilogue, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm ready for the story to end now. So like the ending did feel a little bit dragged out for me. There was at least one thing about the ending that I thought was pretty surprising, but for the most part there were a few things that I definitely picked up on as far as like the twists go in this book. I see a lot of people on Goodreads actually saying that this feels like a retelling of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, but like it's been a few years since I've read that book, so like I'm not totally sure if I could like accurately make that comparison, but it definitely did remind me of like Agatha Christie for sure. This feels very inspired by like Agatha Christie and Clue and like Knives Out, and I think this book is interesting. Like I don't think it's nearly as good as like those other things, but it's definitely like a very solid debut thriller. Like I'm definitely going to be checking out more books from this author in the future. It's easy to get into and the chapters just fly by, like it's very fast paced, and so I think I'm gonna settle around 3.5 stars. I feel like that makes sense. It's not quite a 4-star. Anyway, that is my update for today. I think the next book that I'm gonna start is We Could Be Rats, which I'm like so excited but also really nervous to read this one. And then tomorrow, I'm kind of like dreading tomorrow because I have to go to the dentist. I have to get 2 cavities filled, and like I haven't gone to the dentist in a while, and the dentist is a place that like it really makes me anxious to go, like probably even more than the doctor. Like I really don't like going to the dentist. So like I'm not looking forward to tomorrow, but I am looking forward to like getting this taken care of and then not having to worry about it anymore. So I don't know how much I'm actually going to be reading tomorrow, but I will update you once I've started on We Could Be Rats.
You're looking for someone I can't find it. Maybe we're meant to be a lost cause, but I can see a future that's brighter. Yeah, and if we both are in it, it's up to us. To make it right, to follow through, it's up to us.
Hello, good morning. It has been a couple days since I last updated you because yesterday I ended up having my dentist appointment and it went well. I mean, I was able to get my 2 cavities filled and there were like no issues, but like yesterday I was kind of like out of it for the rest of the day because my jaw and like just the side of my face was like really hurting all day. But I took ibuprofen and I started feeling a lot better. Yesterday, me and my sister ended up finishing Legacies season 1, which was really interesting, you know, because as I was saying, like the beginning of Legacies I wasn't the biggest fan of, but it definitely got better towards the end of season 1, and season 1 ended on a note where I'm like, wait, what the heck? Like I'm definitely curious to start season 2 very soon. But anyway, I wanted to update you because this morning I just drove down to Bellingham because I wanted to get an acai bowl to like start my day, because I've been eating so much fast food these last couple of days and I just haven't been eating very well. So I was like, you know what, I really need to like refresh my system, and like nothing refreshes me more than an acai bowl. Like it really just makes me feel like a brand new person. And while I've been driving down here, I started listening to We Could Be Rats, and I already got 52% of the way through it. I just hit chapter 18, which puts me at about 114 pages in. And this book is actually pretty short. It's only 240-ish pages long. You know, right after getting my bowl, I like drove down here to the park because I was like, okay, like I want to go and like walk around the park after I'm done eating. And then literally as I was finishing eating, it started like pouring rain. I don't know if you can hear it against my car right now, but it just started raining out of nowhere. Like, I didn't even think it was gonna rain today. I didn't even bring my rain jacket. Like, I'm so stupid. I am so sad to tell you that I'm like not really loving this book so far. I'm 50% of the way through this book so far, and I just do not feel connected to it at all. You know, something that I didn't realize about this story is that this entire book so far has been told in suicide notes. And what I mean by that is that we're following this character, and like every single chapter of the book so far has been like her first attempt at writing a suicide note. And then the second chapter is her second attempt at writing a suicide note. And right now in the story, over 100 pages in, I'm on attempt number 18. And like every single chapter of the book is just this sister's attempt at writing a suicide note for her family. And so like obviously this book is very heavy, you know, like it's very sad. Like the idea of a character even writing suicide notes like this is obviously really upsetting and really sad, but I just do not feel connected to this character at all. I also feel like, you know, for the fact that this book is being pitched as like a book about sisters, I don't really know if it really feels to me like it's a book about sisters, because this character keeps talking about how like she's never really been that close to her older sister, and like they had a weird childhood because they never really understood each other, and she always felt so much more seen by her best friend, which is this woman named Greta. And so she's talking a lot about her friendship with this woman Greta, and so you're learning more about that, I guess, than the sisters, in my opinion. Like, I don't know, I guess I'm just not really connecting with like the sister story in this as much as I thought I would, and especially with this main character. I didn't realize that so much of this book would be told with like letters. I think the concept for that is really intriguing, but the way that it's done right now, oh my god, it feels so repetitive, because in every single letter it's kind of starts the same, where she's like, dear family and friends, I'm not a good writer, I don't know how to say this, or she'll actually just try to like make up something to make it seem like less of an issue. Like she'll be like, oh, I actually found out that I have cancer, and she'll be like halfway through the letter she'll be like, just kidding, I actually don't have cancer, I just wanted you to think that I have more of a reason to want to die, or something. You know, it's like, bro, I don't know, like if anything, this character is actually kind of like annoying me more than anything. Like, I know that's maybe awful to say, but like it's just so repetitive. I'm like, what is going on? And I just don't feel connected to her character. So like, oh my god, I am so shocked by this. You know, I would actually want to DNF this book maybe right now, because I'm like, oh my god, I was flipping ahead and I was like, is this entire book just the notes? But I do see in my copy that I'm about to hit a point where I think things are going to change. Like maybe it's not just going to be notes anymore in the second half of the book, or maybe I'm going to get a different perspective, like maybe from the other sister. I don't know. So like I am going to go ahead and finish this one on audio, mostly because I have so much I have to get done today, and like I was expecting to love this book so much, so I didn't really prepare to listen to anything else. But anyway, I'm going to continue listening to this one on audio and hope that I like the second half a lot more. I'm currently out because I have a bunch of stuff in my trunk that I'm going to take to Value Village to donate, because after my move I still had a ton of stuff in my car that I was loading up that I was planning to donate, so I'm gonna take all of that stuff today to Value Village. I might also swing by the Winco that's like right over there, because I need to pick up some groceries. I haven't really had time, you know, since moving to pick up any groceries, so we're gonna do that today. I also need to swing by the library to pick up one of my holds. Just like a bunch of little tasks and things that I need to get done today, so I'm just gonna continue listening to this one on audio, and I should be able to finish it, so let's hope for the best. Hello, I just got home from doing all of the things. It's been a very busy and productive afternoon, and it's only 1 o'clock in the afternoon right now, but I wanted to update you because I just finished listening to We Could Be Rats. This was such a quick read. I mean, the audiobook is only like 6 hours long, and the chapters in this book are pretty short, and the story just like flew by. And I am so freaking devastated that this book just wasn't really for me. I don't know, like I do think like the last third of the book was like the strongest section of the whole book, because I do feel like the first 2/3 of this book with all of the notes and the letters, like it just got very repetitive for me, and I didn't feel like I was connecting with any of the characters. And then I definitely felt the most connected in that last third of this book. There were some things happening that I thought were really interesting and really well done, but I still feel like I never really connected to these characters. Like I don't know why, I just felt so disconnected from this the whole time. I mean, something that I really did like about this book was the talk about this character kind of like exploring her sexuality and realizing that she might be queer, and how she would have those conversations conversations with her sister. I really did like those aspects of the story. There was also like a surprising amount of talk about politics in this book and how difficult it can be when you disagree on politics with other people in your family. Like there was definitely some discussion about that in this book. I mean, this book in a lot of ways, it was about as heavy as I was expecting it to be, you know, because most of this book is dealing with suicide and a character contemplating suicide and thinking a lot about that throughout the story. So definitely check trigger warnings for this one because there are some like harder things to read about. I really wish that I felt more emotionally connected to this and these characters because like there were some moments in the writing where I just thought the writing was like so beautiful and I was like, I could see how this would make somebody feel emotional if they were feeling more connected to the story. But unfortunately for me, I don't know why, I'm like, do I have a heart of stone? I was just kind of like, meh. I'm probably gonna end up giving this like 2.5 stars. Like honestly, it's a very forgettable read for me and that makes me so sad. But I clearly seem to be the unpopular opinion on this one because if you look on Goodreads, like this book is getting so many 5-star reviews and a lot of people really seem to be loving this. So please take my review with a grain of salt if you're gonna read this book. I hope you do and I hope that you love it. I feel like I just had one of those reading experiences where I read a book that is like very well loved and I just feel like, did I miss something? But anyway, I just got home. I finished putting all of my groceries away. I'm not totally sure which of these books I want to start next. I mean, both of them are so short. This one's only 100 pages. This one's about 150 pages. I do have access to both of them on audio, by the way. I have this audiobook from the publisher and I'm gonna listen to this one on Spotify because this audiobook is only like an hour and a half on Spotify. I think I'm gonna go on a walk through the neighborhood because it is a really nice, sunny, beautiful day and I just want to get outside. Okay, hello, I'm home from my walk. I ended up washing my hair. I also cracked open this peach iced tea. I never used to like tea when I was younger. But then like just last year, I really started getting into herbal tea. And now all of a sudden I was like, wait, what if I retry iced tea? And it turns out I actually like iced tea like crazy. I feel like this is why it's so important to like try new things as you get older because sometimes your taste buds change and like now I really like this iced tea. It's so good. But anyway, I wanted to update you because I just finished reading Open Throat. Oh my gosh, this book is only like 150 pages or something like that, but the audiobook is only an hour and a half long. Like it is such a quick read because most of the story reads like poetry. Like it's all written in this way where it kind of looks like poetry. I really enjoyed this one. I think I'm gonna give this one 4 stars. I don't think it was like a perfect 5-star book for me, but this book was so unique and it was so thought-provoking because in this story, you're following from the perspective of this queer mountain lion who is living in the Hollywood Hills. And it was so fascinating because all of this story is told from the lion's perspective. I really do love stories like this where we're following from the perspective of something that is not exactly human, but it's something that kind of like watches over humanity and makes commentary about humanity. That's like one of my favorite things to read in fiction. And I really, really loved reading from the perspective of this mountain lion. I think the first half of the book was so good. Like it was just so creative, so unique. I was loving the writing style and like really connecting with it. And then in the second half, I feel like I can't give this book 5 stars because I feel like in the second half of the book, the plot definitely like lost me just a little bit with like the direction of where the story went. But then the actual last chapter of this book was so good that it gave me like chills all over my body. So like I really enjoyed this one for the most part. I actually think that this book, it reminded me a lot of Walking Practice, which is one that I just read last month. I don't know, they definitely reminded me a lot of each other because in both of these stories, you're following characters who are not exactly human themselves, but they are observing humanity. And there's also a lot of conversations in both of these books about gender and about queerness that I thought was very, very thought-provoking and very well done. I mean, don't get me wrong, Walking Practice is definitely more horror. You know, like there's a lot of body horror in this book and it is very intense and gruesome and graphic, but Open Throat was kind of more of a literary feeling kind of story. Like this definitely is not horror, but this one has more of a poetic, almost like literary feel to the writing. But I feel like both of these books kind of have like similar messages in their own ways. I don't know, I'm very impressed with this book. I will definitely be wanting to check out more from this author in the future because I really loved the writing style. The audiobook was also great if you were wondering. I would highly recommend the audiobook. I thought it was very well done. So like, wow, I'm so glad that I finally had a book in this video that I really enjoyed. And now the only thing left to read for this reading vlog is Murder by Memory. I think I'm going to read this one first thing tomorrow and I can't wait. I hope it ends up going well.
And the summer's old, this still feels so right, but it's getting cold. Door is open like the fuse. If you want me to.
Hello, good afternoon. It is now the next day, but I wanted to update you because I just finished reading Murder by Memory. I was pretty much able to listen to this all morning while I curled my hair. I got some filming done this morning, and then I also just went on a walk. And while doing all of that, I was able to listen to the entirety of this audiobook because this book is so short, you know, it's only 100 pages. You know, I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about this because I'm not the biggest fan of cozy mysteries, but I was like, you know, maybe a cozy mystery with like some sci-fi elements, maybe that will be more interesting, and I definitely think it was. I did like this more than I like the typical kind of cozy mystery because this had a really cool sci-fi element to the story. Because in this story, we're following these characters who live on this thing called the Interstellar Passenger Liner, which is like basically like a spaceship that's floating around in space from what I can understand. But it's really cool because we're following this character named Dorothy and she wakes up in a body that's like not her body. But Dorothy herself is a detective on this ship and she starts to think that something might be going wrong. But what's really cool about this is that they've been in space traveling for over 300 years, and I think that they said that this ship is expected to last for like thousands of years. And so the passengers that are on board, they have the ability to like upload all of their memories into this like digital library, and it is pretty common for them to like wake up in new bodies after they've died. But the mystery of the story comes in because they find out that not only is somebody like killing the physical bodies, but they're also deleting the memories. So in a way, that's more like a permanent death or like a true murder because they're deleting the memories. And so we follow our character Dorothy as she tries to figure out what's going on, and she has to use this new body to try and solve the crime. And I thought this book was actually very fun to listen to on audio. There are a lot of queer characters in this story, which is definitely something that I appreciated. And like the amount of world building that this author was able to do in just 100 pages was really amazing. I mean, I think this is the first book in a series, and you're still going to be following the main character Dorothy, I think, in every single one of the books. I think I just really connected to Dorothy's character a lot in this book, and I think she was a really fun character to follow. And you know, in a lot of ways, this did read like a lot of other cozy mysteries that I've read in the past, but I think because this book has this cool like sci-fi element to it, I was a lot more invested in like learning about the sci-fi and like how this universe works, and like the idea that these people could just like upload all of their memories to this library. Like I thought that was so fascinating. And so I think the sci-fi elements of this book are what kept me really invested the whole time I was reading this. I also do think though there was like a little bit of a twist at the end that I was like, oh shit, like I didn't really see that coming. So I think that that was really cool that this author was able to pull off that twist. I think I'm probably gonna end up giving this like 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would. I do think that I would continue on in the series if this author comes out with more books in this series, because I do like the characters in this a lot. I like the sci-fi elements, and like if they stay short like this, like sweet little novellas, I love just reading a 100-page book like this. So I'm surprised that I had a fun time with this because I don't think I've ever read anything that could be described as cozy mystery and sci-fi. All right, so that is going to be a wrap on this reading vlog where I read these 5 different books. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I am a little bit bummed that none of these books were 5 stars for me. I didn't find any books in this vlog that I'm like screaming from the rooftops about. So like that's a bit unfortunate. Like I'm not gonna lie, I really thought that I would find a winner amongst these books here. I think my favorite thing that I read for this video though is probably Open Throat. Don't get me wrong, I definitely enjoyed both Murder by Memory and You're Fatally Invited, and these were definitely books that I can see myself recommending pretty widely. But then I am so freaking bummed about these 2 books right here. I also like, I really expected this reading vlog to go better because the next reading vlog I plan to work on after this one is a reading vlog where I'm gonna be reading like the lowest rated books off of my backlist and doing another episode of like the backlist bonanza. So that's gonna be what I'm working on next. And now I'm like, because I thought this was gonna be a very successful reading vlog where I would find so many new favorites. And now I'm potentially gonna have to read more books that I'm not gonna like because like if they're the lowest rated, there's gotta be a reason, right? I mean, it should make for a very entertaining vlog, but I was just hoping to enjoy more books in this one. So anyway, that's gonna be a wrap on this vlog. If you've read any of the books that I read in this video, please let me know what are your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.